Greetings viewers, welcome to another episode of Eric the Car Guy. Here at Eric the Car Guy we do stuff, repair type stuff. Behind me, a 2001 Honda Odyssey. Well, actually behind me is a remanufactured transmission for a 2001 Honda Odyssey. We're going to be installing that in this van today, but I'm not going to be doing a video on the complete install. I've already shot a complete install video that will be available sometime in the future. One of the things that I want to impart here works for any time you install a remanufactured or you've rebuilt a transmission or something like that. What I'm about to show you today is something that is a very good idea, and it's something well, I'm just going to come out and say it. This is what you should do if you are installing a new or remanufactured or freshly rebuilt transmission into your vehicle. And what we're going to do today is flush the transmission cooler lines with this product here. In addition to that, we will also be installing an inline transmission filter. I'm installing an inline transmission filter into this because Honda transmissions don't have serviceable filters. They do have filters, they're located deep inside the transmission, but they're not serviceable. The only way to get to them is to split the case and get down inside, and that's just not practical. They didn't make it to be a serviceable filter. They made it to be a filter that was dealt with when you did a rebuild or something like that. In essence, it's a lifetime filter. However, this particular transmission has external cooler lines. Not all Honda transmissions have external cooler lines, but this one does. Because of that, we're able to install this inline filter in the cooler line so that we can filter any transmission fluid going back into the transmission. And we want to do this, why? Well, particularly in the case where we have a transmission failure, this is what happens. It sends small little metal particles all throughout the entire system, including into the transmission cooler. Any place there's transmission fluid, there's likely to be that small particulate matter. Now, we install our new transmission, rebuilt transmission, whatever, and we hook it up to those cooler lines and we just start it up and go down the road, and guess what? We just took all those little small metal particles and sent them inside our new transmission. Not a good idea. This is what we do to deal with that situation. We will start by flushing out the lines, and we will end by installing our transmission filter. And once we've done that, we'll be ready to install our new transmission, and things should be hunky-dory from there. So rather than me talking, why don't we get up under this van and start flushing out these transmission cooler lines. Look, Ma, no transmission. Yes, we take out the subframe and everything else in order to get this transmission out. And here are our cooler lines that I have, well, sort of blocked off for the time being. I also have my drain pan here handy because we want our fluid to go someplace as we are flushing. So here we are. We've got the inlet and outlet, and this will be important later. This is the line going into the cooler. This is the line coming out, and here I'll show you how I know that. All right, well, here we have the service manual, and this is the procedure for ATF cooler flushing, which is the exact procedure that we're doing. Now, Honda's got their own special tool with compressed air and their own solvents and things like that, and there's the flushing fluid, but we're just going to use this store-bought stuff. I just called up my auto parts store and said I needed to flush cooler lines. They had this can of stuff. I'm hoping it's as easy for you to get it. You can see in here it tells you what is what. It says connect the drain hose C to the inlet line on the ATF cooler. So C, as you can see, goes up and around to this side. So that's the inlet line. So this is the line coming out of the transmission into the cooler, and this is the line coming out of the cooler and back to the transmission. So that's how I know what's what here. But what they want us to do is they want us to flush backwards. And this will also be important when we go to install the filter, because we want to install the filter on the outlet of the cooler going back to the transmission. That way we're filtering all the fluid going into the transmission, which is what we want. And we also, it's important to hook it up correctly so that the flow, you'll notice that the filter it's directional, it has to go a certain way. So we want to make sure that we do that as well. So inlet here, outlet here, and we're gonna flush through the outlet because we want to back flush it. All right, I'll be honest, this is not rocket science. I just have these spark plugs put in here to prevent leakage while I was working. Just gonna move the clamps back. Remove the plugs. Got a little bit of fluid. Now, I have actually already flushed this out once. But I can see no harm in doing it twice, especially with my $2,300 remanufactured transmission. This is the line going back to the transmission. This is the line coming from the transmission. So we want to back flush. So we're going to flush through this line into the inlet. So we're doing it backwards. So do what you can to find the service manual for the vehicle that you're working on, and find out which way's in and which way's out, and go in the opposite direction of flow. It helps knock things loose. All right, so here's our solvent stuff. Quite simply, it's got a little end on it that you can just insert into the hose. It stays there and hooks in. And then take your other hose and point it down towards your drain pan. Hoses and everything hooked up. Got this pointed down towards the drain pan, and really just pull the trigger. Hopefully it seals up. Yummy stuff, huh? I've emptied out my can. That's all gone. But there's still some solvent up in these lines. I would like to get that out, and how I'm going to do that is with a little bit of compressed air. So I'm just going to run compressed air through it in the same way that I ran the solvent through it, pointing it down into the pan just to make sure that there's no more, well, I want to reduce the amount of solvent. Feel like I got most of the solvent out now. Now that my cooler's all flushed out, I want to install this inline filter. And as you can see, it has a flow. And we know that this is the line coming from the transmission into the cooler, and we know that this is the line coming out of the cooler back to the transmission. That's where I'd like to install my filter. This way I'm getting nice clean fluid coming back from the cooler, and I know that my direction of flow is going to go back towards the transmission. They gave me a bunch of fancy hoses and stuff to use to put in with this, but looking at this, I think I can just cut out a section of this hose and install this filter. By the looks of it, I can come in right, it's going to sit like this when all's said and done. And I want to make sure that it's not going to come in contact with a fan or anything like that. But I don't think I'll have any problem installing this right here. So looking at this, I may make this hose a little bit longer by cutting it the way I'm going to cut it, but I'm not too worried. I'd rather have it a little bit too long than too short. But I do have extra line if I need it. So I'm just going to trim it right here, just after this bend. Come up just a little bit more. Just going to cut it there, and also right here before it bends. And simply, I have two hose clamps. I'm going to install one here and one here. I'm going to take my filter and make sure it's pointed in the right direction. Tighten the clamps, and I'm done. Awesome. Flush your cooler lines. Install an inline filter if it's a Honda and you can, and that will go a long way to helping prevent a comeback or any issues with your new or rebuilt transmission. This is something that is quite often overlooked, and in some cases, some of these warranties will be voided if they can prove that you didn't do this. When transmissions fail, they send junk everywhere through that whole system. And that transmission cooler, whether it be a separate transmission cooler or one inside the radiator like this one is, this is just a really good practice, and I strongly suggest that you do it. Try to make sure that you back flush it. Try to figure out which is send and which is return as far as the lines go. I was fortunate enough to have a service manual for this vehicle, so it was easy for me to figure out what was what, and also that helps with the direction of flow when it comes to that filter. This will go a long way towards preventing problems in the future. You walk away, you forget about it, you don't do anything else with it. If you have automotive questions, I would ask that you head to EricTheCarGuy.com. I'll put a link in the description. When you get there, you'll see a list of categories of the most commonly asked questions that I've gotten over the past few years, and I've written articles and solutions to those questions that are easily accessible, free for you to access. If you don't find an answer doing that, we're not out of options yet. Just feel free to sign up for our forum. It's absolutely free. All you need is an email address. Just be sure to respond to the confirmation email that will be sent to said email address when you go to sign up. If you don't click that activation link, you won't be able to sign up. Once you've done that, you can head over to Service and Repair and ask your question over there on our forum, and we will do our best to try and help you there. If you wish to connect with me socially, I can be found on Google+, Facebook, and Twitter, and I close each of my videos with be safe, have fun, and stay dirty. And keep your transmission coolers clean.